Hey everybody, this is Rex Bear with Leak Project. I hope you're having a nice day today. I'm drinking a warm cup of coffee out here in my garage in San Antonio. And I just received some additional Illuminati New World Order playing cards from Steve Jackson Games. And I went through them and pulled out 26 different cards that I want to share with you guys today. I don't know if you saw the last podcast I did on the Illuminati playing cards where I basically said I pulled 23 cards and looked at the parallels of today and recent events that have taken place. So that's kind of what we're going to do now. But I did want to bring to your attention the thing that I find fascinating about Steve Jackson is he actually came up with this idea back in the 80s after he read a book called Illuminatus Trilogy. Then, shortly after, he created a game that, let me just read this to you from Wikipedia. He decided a game about the secret conspiracy idea behind Illuminatus was viable after researching the Illuminati and conspiracy theories and extensive playtesting. It went on the market in July of 1982. So the original version of this game was all the way over 30 years ago, 35 years ago. So I think that's fascinating. So the current version that I'm showing you right now came out in the mid-90s, 1994. It's the New World Order Illuminati playing game, essentially. So you can actually pick up some of these cards on Amazon, eBay. I don't know if you can get them new still, obviously, because they're almost 20 years old, but he does have a website, or there is a website. I think it's sjgames.com. Just type in Steve Jackson Games, and you can find the website. But let me just go over some of these cards with you guys real quick, because I think these are quite interesting, and they actually parallel many of the conspiracies and realities of today. And even a lot of these conspiracies we find out later in life are reality, such as chemtrailing, geoengineering. I watched a video just a few days ago that was posted on Facebook, and unless there was some hanky-panky there where somebody took the audio and changed it with the video, and I didn't see that, well, then essentially the CIA director came out and said, yes, geoengineering is real. They call it aerosol spraying, something aerosol spraying. It's a three-letter acronym like they've got for virtually everything in the intelligence industry. So the first card that I wanted to share with you guys is called Seize the Industry. I'm sorry, Seize Time. Seize the Time. Now, if you just read the beginning of it, it says, play this card at the beginning of any other player's turn. It becomes your turn instead. Now, what I'm wondering if this card might represent is the Mandela effect. I'm not convinced on the Mandela effect, but I certainly do think time travel is possible. And if time travel exists 100 years from now, well, it exists right now. If it exists 1,000 years from now, it exists 100 years ago. I'm sure you guys get the picture. So that's an interesting card, to say the least. Now, most of us do know this. This isn't a shocker. The military-industrial complex. Who controls the majority of the strings around the world? Well, what industry would you say? Definitely the military-industrial complex is in the top three. The Center for Disease Control, if you guys have seen any of the recent bills that have been passed over the past several years, actually, there's been multiple bills giving these guys a ton of control and power to essentially lock people up. So the Center for Disease Control. And now one thing that we talk about a lot is Hollywood and the influence Hollywood has on your subconscious, on your conscious mind. Media is extremely influential. And this card right here, the Hollywood card, I think these guys are associated with the military-industrial complex and many of these alphabet agencies, the Center for Disease Control, etc. I think they all kind of work together in harmony to make profit off of each other's actions. And this card says, behind the phony tinsel of Hollywood lies the real tinsel. And that makes me think about something. That makes me think about all the predictive programming in Hollywood media. And I just did a podcast earlier today where I showed the parallels of House of Cards Season 4, the end of Season 4, paralleling what's going on right now, in my opinion, with the Trump-Obama Russian elections, Vladimir Putin fiasco, where according to some people in the CIA, they're saying that the elections were rigged by Russia. They had an influence on it. And then people in the FBI, according to some of these articles that I've read, say, no, that's not true. So who knows what to believe anymore? Do I think that Russia influenced the elections? I don't know. I'm not saying one way or the other. I question everything. So don't take my questions the wrong way. I'm not making a decision one way or the other. I'm questioning everything. And you might want to as well. The next card that I'm going to go over with you guys is the International Weather Organization card, the International Weather Organization card. Now, this is the real deal. All places you control get a +6 to defend against any disaster. Well, that's what the card says. But let's get into this. If you type in weather modification on Google, the first one of the first sites that comes up is a company that actually makes money modifying the weather. I talked to a person that was actually a part of the Olympics in Beijing back in the day when I had a sales position for a Fortune 100 company. And the lady said that she was a part of networking different, this organization that essentially would seed the clouds to prevent it from raining. So I found that was quite fascinating. That was back in, 2008 approximately. We're talking almost 10 years ago, like 8 years ago. So, and as I just said, the CIA director did come out and say that geoengineering is real. They just have a different name for it. If you call it chemtrailing, you're considered a conspiracy theorist, which is retarded. Now let's get into another conspiracy that's really taken mainstream, at least on YouTube, and people that I know personally that I'm friends with actually think the earth is flat. I have never thought the earth is flat, and I still don't think the earth is flat, but there is a flat earth playing card in the Illuminati New World Order deck. Now let me read this card to you. People laugh, but the flat earthers know something. For their action, you may roll 2 dice. The flat earthers' weird alternative geology has led them to a gold strike, and you may draw as many plot cards as the number you rolled. So, the flat earthers, they're even in the New World Order Illuminati playing deck. Now, could this be a psyop, or is the earth flat? Or is the earth a giant hexagon? Is it an octagon? Are we all in a mixed martial arts fight right now, and we don't even realize it because we're holographically visualizing something completely different to prevent our brain from becoming more damaged? And I'm being sarcastic here. I don't know where I'm going with that. All right, so Saturday morning cartoons. Now, I'm 39, so I definitely remember growing up in the 80s, getting up early on Saturday morning, turning on the TV and watching the cartoons. Loved them. Loved Saturday morning cartoons. It's a lot different now, the cartoons that are portrayed, versus what was back then. I mean, if you guys have seen Adult Swim, like Mr. Pickles, Satan, the dog, and his master, or not necessarily his master, I should say, it's quite the opposite, but the person that goes around with him, the kid that's handicapped, essentially, and the dog will go around humping other animals, saying that Satan loves you backwards. It's a lot different than it used to be. But, you know, this card essentially says it's a programming card. It's a programming card. And that's one thing that I find fascinating. If people don't realize how powerful the media is, you can influence people subconsciously to levels that are beyond most people's imagination. And Hollywood knows how to control and influence people's subconscious. It's extremely easy to do. If you guys want to learn how to do it yourself, just pick up a manual on conversational hypnosis. People are typically under some type of hypnosis on a 24-hour basis, whether they realize it or not. Now, there's different levels of hypnosis. There's alpha, beta, theta, delta, etc. And the further down the rabbit hole you go, the easier it is to send subliminal programming or messages or tags or triggers into the mind to influence somebody at a waking state, essentially, without them even realizing it. So Hollywood is extremely good at that. Saturday morning cartoons. Now, this card says, gives +2 to any attempt to control any violent group. So Saturday morning cartoons, mind control. This is a good one. Now, remember, you guys, this is 20 years old. This is from 1994. It's 23 years old. The cable TV card, 500 channels, and nothing's on. We all know that reality. 500 channels and nothing's on. Now, I'm sure many of you have seen this card, the Pentagon card. Now, this is portraying this event 7 years before it happened. Obviously, September 11, 2001. This card came out in 94, and it was envisioned back in the 80s. Well, this card says, each corporate group directly controlled by the Pentagon lets you draw 1 extra plot card, whatever that means. Now, here's another card that I want to share with you guys. If you have had a chance to see the reports on FBI's own website, it's fbi.gov/vault. I think that's kind of the woo-woo section. FBI files that have been declassified. You can read about Area 51. You can read about Roswell, the crash there. You can read about Nazis in Argentina. And essentially it says that Hitler escaped in a submarine to Argentina. Well, look at this. South American Nazis. South American Nazis. It's an interesting card. Has a +6 for direct control of any weird science group and gives +3 power to any weird science group it controls. Once again, I don't know what that means. I need to learn how to play the Illuminati card game, I guess. I can certainly see the Illuminati blueprints on a daily basis anytime I turn on the television set, the radio, watch a TV program, or a movie, because it's all intertwined. If you can pick that stuff up, you guys, it becomes easier and easier to understand how they're attempting to program you, to mind control you. Now, tidal wave. This looks like the area in Japan, Fukushima, Japan, that got whacked back in 3/11/11, which equals 322. Now do the math on that, Secret Society Mystery School, 322. This tidal wave, could this have been a precursor to what happened in Fukushima? Now, I'm going to add to this one. A nuclear accident. Maybe the Illuminati decided to play 2 cards that day and bust out the nuclear accident after the tidal wave. And let's not forget the Stuxnet type virus that was discovered in the nuclear reactor computers that prevented it from keeping cool after the tidal wave took place, from the research that I have done and many other people that I've spoken with as well. Now let's talk about the nuclear power companies here for a minute, because they have a lot of influence in the world. There's over 450, last I checked, there's 450 nuclear reactors around the world. Many of these are located next to fault lines, coastal areas, which is retarded. Whoever put these things together either was just completely ignorant to what's going to happen 50, 100 years from now, or the possibilities, or they wanted destruction, or they enjoy nuclear radiation. They enjoy radiating the world. Now, as I've kept track with the radiation levels since 2013, the radiation levels right now are at 0.12 microsieverts per hour. 0.12 microsieverts per hour. That, according to somebody that left a comment on my YouTube channel the other day, says, well, that's low because the average global levels are 0.16. Well, I can tell you back in 2013, the average levels here in Texas were 0.07. I haven't seen it at 0.07 in ages. The other day, it was up to 0.16, and it's continuing to rise. So it's like this slow boil. I don't know if this is from what I've heard about a company called WCS, which is storing nuclear radiation in northwest Texas, and a lot of the transportation I heard is traveling through San Antonio. If it has something to do with cosmic radiation, if it's a combination of the WIP facility, if there's leaks around the globe, but it seems to be around this general area is raising more than other areas in the country, because I've traveled the country quite extensively to keep track of that. So let's move on to the next card here. Fast food chains. Fast food chains. Now, we've all read the reports about there being human DNA in hamburgers and hot dogs. We've heard the conspiracies about how missing children after they're kidnapped, tortured, are put in these facilities to hide the bodies. Could it be just sweat, DNA, and blood from accidents that happen when they're putting this food together, the DNA? Sure, absolutely it could. Could it be the other? I don't know. What do you guys think? Because I've read a lot of reports and heard a lot of information that that is going on. So I'd like your opinions on that for sure. Fast food chains. Think about how much influence and control fast food chains have. Now, a lot of them are franchises, though, so they're just individuals buying a franchise, etc. But if you go to, here in San Antonio, Texas, there's a fast food chain, a fast food restaurant on virtually every street corner, combined with multiple gas stations, and now it's urgent cares, and you've got urgent cares, pawn shops, gas stations, fast food joints, and taco stands, essentially, in San Antonio, for the most part. And I've traveled the country extensively, and it's corporate America almost everywhere. Even some of the smaller towns now are turning into Walmart, Best Buys, Burger Kings. So that's fast food chains. And of course, you're a conspiracy theorist if you believe any of this that I'm telling you. It's all just a conspiracy. You are a conspiracy theorist, which means everything you say and believe is just a conspiracy, which means it's not real. Here's the conspiracy theorist card. This one says, this powerless and much mocked group is prized by the Illuminati because their wild ravings often contain useful ideas. Okay. Now here's a good card, especially for you folks that are religious or are Christian or have seen the Shroud of Turin. This is a fascinating card. Mind you, it's 23 years old. The Shroud of Turin card. The Shroud of Turin card. Now, I'm going to read this card to you. I find this one's pretty cool. The one in the museum is a fake. The real one is far away, the center of nightly rituals. Think about that. If they did find the Shroud of Turin, do you think it's really in a museum? And what type of mystical properties does that shroud actually have? Who controls the shroud? And if you have the shroud and you had tons of power and money and you had a kind of megalomaniac mindset, kind of a sociopath mindset, a thought process where what got you off was more power, What would you do with the Shroud of Turin? Now remember, in the Bible, if you believe the Holy Bible, I remember reading parts of the New Testament where this person just touched Jesus, and by touching him, that person was healed. So that's a pretty interesting thought right there. I like that one. Now how about this, ladies and gentlemen? The Reformed Church of Satan. The Reformed Church of Satan. Now Satan loves you, and they have beautiful statues of Baphomet, which isn't Satan in my opinion, but a lot of people think Baphomet is Satan. They do have statues of Baphomet now that you can go to next to Capitol buildings like in Oklahoma, and you can get yourself a nice picture hanging out there with Baphomet. And if you read into the Church of Satan, I've studied their doctrine, at least according to the original Church of Satan. There's 11 commandments, not 10. There's 11 commandments, and it's more like a humanist religion, in my opinion, where people are more they believe in themselves necessarily. They can believe in whatever they want. They're not really stuck to a particular set of dogmatic rituals or practices. And I'm wondering if this Reformed Church of Satan card, I do feel this has a lot of merit. The media is really changing the way that it portrays Satanism. I mean, it's looked at now as something cool and hip and hot. I mean, even if you go back to the punk days, I mean, that it was considered the same, heavy metal, some hard rock, etc. It's been very influential in the media, I would say, at least Satanism, Satan, Lucifer, whatever title you want to put to that archetype or ideal. So that is the Reformed Church of Satan card. Let me read this to you. The very existence of the church infuriates straights while you control it. No straight group can attack or help attack any part of the power structure except this group. Okay. Now, the next card I'm going to pull is the Deep Agent card. I want you to take a good look at this card, the Deep Agent card. Does that look like anybody you know in particular? The Deep Agent card. I'm going to read this to you. You may totally negate the privilege of a privileged attack. The attack continues, but the privilege may not be reinstated. Playing this card is a free move, but interference itself is an action for each group that interferes. Okay? Now here's the Imposter card. The Imposter card. Now here's another question for you. A lot of people have speculated that there's multiple body doubles in not just Hollywood, but in politics, presidents. I've seen multiple images of Saddam Hussein and the doubles that he had. So could there be a possibility, let's say that over the next few years, the new administration doesn't want to play ball. They don't do it. Let's just say it happens. Let's paint this picture as a possible scenario. The new administration gets in office, and they don't play ball with the globalists. Well, what would be a way for the globalists to take control without anybody knowing? The Imposter card, right there. Body double. Body double. Not saying it's going to happen. This is all speculation. These are all possibilities. These are all, once again, I'm going to have to pull this card here. I am just a conspiracy theorist. I am just a conspiracy theorist. So this is all entertainment. I'm just a conspiracy theorist. What about the assertiveness training? Now, this card right here, that picture of Grandma right there holding the gun, that looks just like those cardboard cutouts that the Department of Homeland Security purchased by the thousands, showing Grandma, Grandpa, you know, little Billy, little Jill, holding guns. And they were, I'm trying to remember the name of these cardboard cutouts. No Hesitation was the name of the cutouts. No Hesitation. There was different numbers that marked if it was Grandma or an 8-year-old boy or, you know, a 13-year-old girl. But no more hesitation. That's what that looks like to me right there. The no more hesitation cardboard cutouts that the Department of Homeland Security purchased several years ago. Julian Assange. This is the next card that I'm going to share with you. Is he alive? Is he dead? Where is he at? What's going on? Is WikiLeaks even legit anymore, or has it been taken over and infiltrated? I don't know. Have you guys seen him recently? I haven't. Well, look at this card. And stay dead. And stay dead. Now, who does that look like to you guys? Who does that look like? Look at the gray hair. This is from 1994, 23 years ago. Play this card immediately after any group has been destroyed or discarded by any player. It requires an action from a magic group. The destroyed group is gone forever. No card or special ability can revive it. All right. So, a few more cards here. We're almost done. I read an article yesterday about how this guy's Echo device from Amazon is being used in a murder trial that he's being charged with. And first of all, if the guy killed somebody and that's what they need to use, that piece of technology to, to lock him up, essentially, I get it. I can completely understand that. And I do want to bring to your attention how powerful and spy-like so many different pieces of technology that we have in our house, in our car, at work, outside, etc. Now, for example, your smartphone. It's the most amazing spy device in the world. A lot of people, when they get up, the first thing they do is they go straight to their phone. They're looking at their phone when they go to bed. They're looking at their phone all day in between. Now, that phone can easily pick up video footage, audio footage, where you are, what you're doing, who you're with, etc. Now, with the new Echo devices, the new smart homes, smart appliances, smart fridges, smart meters, etc., all that stuff can track you, ladies and gentlemen, all of it. It can track virtually everything you do. I mean, it's all intertwined together, and they've got supercomputers that can calculate, right now, almost 100 quadrillion floating points per second. Now, think about that. That means that 7 billion people on the planet, with predictive programming software, there could be thousands of scenarios predicted per person per second at any given time, and this is just based on the technology that we know about. Now, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. What I am saying is, be aware of that. Who controls this technology at the top? What are you saying in your house that certain factions might not agree with? Well, they can listen to it at any time. And this is called the Clipper chip. This is essentially a chip that can track you virtually anywhere you go, that's lodged into virtually all technologies, the Clipper chip. But, of course, welcome to the New World Order. There's going to be peace in our time. Now, a lot of people think that Donald Trump is going to bring in a new peaceful era for the United States of America. And hey, I hope so. I certainly don't want to see war. I know a lot of people that do. I do not. I enjoy being comfortable. I don't want to have to see people get their legs blown off and go through hell on earth. Peace in our time. Peace in our time. So is that what we're seeing right now? Are we going to see peace in our time? And what happens next after peace? Is peace a disguise for law and order? Here's another New World Order card. Law and order. What happens if the dollar collapses? What happens if there's a bank holiday? What happens if we have another 2008 scenario, only worse this time? Law and order. Martial law, which, ladies and gentlemen, once again, martial law is portrayed in Season 4, House of Cards. Frank Underwood is on the verge of losing the election, and what does he do? Bingo, martial law and World War III. Now, I'm not fear-mongering. I read a comment earlier saying that I was fear-mongering because I think that there's a possibility that Trump is in a position of power now, and he's going to be a part of a global war. Now, do I think that he's starting that war? No, this is my opinion. These are thoughts that are going through my head. I question everything. I question everything, literally, to the point of beyond questioning things sometimes. So I certainly hope we're not on the verge of World War III. If you're a biblical person, if you think that prophecy is accurate revelation, well, peace is disguised. War is disguised as peace. Peace is this false hope that brings everybody together for an easier assimilation with the powers that be. So these are just certainly things that I'm going to be aware of and question everything. Have a fantastic day. Make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/clandestine time lord. Also, leakproject.com. We have exclusive content on there, and be the change you want to see. Hey everybody, this is Rex Bear with Leak Project. I hope you're having a nice day today. I'm drinking a warm cup of coffee out here in my garage in San Antonio. And I just received some additional Illuminati New World Order playing cards from Steve Jackson Games. And I went through them and pulled out 26 different cards that I want to share with you guys today. I don't know if you saw the last podcast I did on the Illuminati playing cards where I basically said I pulled 23 cards and looked at the parallels of today and recent events that have taken place. So that's kind of what we're going to do now. But I did want to bring to your attention the thing that I find fascinating about Steve Jackson is he actually came up with this idea back in the 80s after he read a book called Illuminatus Trilogy. Then, shortly after, he created a game that, let me just read this to you from Wikipedia. He decided a game about the secret conspiracy idea behind Illuminatus was viable after researching the Illuminati and conspiracy theories and extensive playtesting. It went on the market in July of 1982. So the original version of this game was all the way over 30 years ago. 35 years ago. So I think that's fascinating. So the current version that I'm showing you right now came out in the mid-90s, 1994. It's the New World Order Illuminati playing game, essentially. So you can actually pick up some of these cards on Amazon, eBay. I don't know if you can get them new still, obviously, because they're almost 20 years old. But he does have a website, or there is a website. I think it's sjgames.com. Just type in Steve Jackson Games, and you can find the website. But let me just go over some of these cards with you guys real quick, because I think these are quite interesting, and they actually parallel many of the conspiracies and realities of today. And even a lot of these conspiracies we find out later in life are reality, such as chemtrailing, geoengineering. I watched a video just a few days ago that was posted on Facebook, and unless there was some hanky-panky there where somebody took the audio and changed it with the video, and I didn't see that, well, then essentially the CIA director came out and said, yes, geoengineering is real. They call it aerosol spraying, something aerosol spraying. It's a 3-letter acronym like they've got for virtually everything in the intelligence industry. So the first card that I wanted to share with you guys is called Seize the Industry. I'm sorry, Seize Time. Seize the Time. Now, if you just read the beginning of it, it says, play this card at the beginning of any other player's turn. It becomes your turn instead. Now, what I'm wondering if this card might represent is the Mandela effect. I'm not convinced on the Mandela effect, but I certainly do think time travel is possible. And if time travel exists 100 years from now, well, it exists right now. If it exists 1,000 years from now, it exists 100 years ago. I'm sure you guys get the picture. So that's an interesting card, to say the least. Now, most of us do know this. This isn't a shocker. The military-industrial complex. Who controls the majority of the strings around the world? Well, what industry would you say? Definitely the military-industrial complex is in the top 3. The Center for Disease Control, if you guys have seen any of the recent bills that have been passed over the past several years, actually, there's been multiple bills giving these guys a ton of control and power to essentially lock people up. So the Center for Disease Control. And now one thing that we talk about a lot is Hollywood and the influence Hollywood has on your subconscious, on your conscious mind. Media is extremely influential. And this card right here, the